Good morning to all of you for this wonderful Teachers' Day celebration on 5th September 2022. And I know from morning onwards we are attending a lot of lectures commemorating the Teachers' Day of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. Okay, very good. So today we'll have a quick session on the teachers and the trainers' role in NEP implementation. And as we all know that new education policy which has been implemented from 2020 onwards, there are a couple of highlights which we as teachers should definitely try to understand. So let us see the elements of the national education policy. The NEP 2020 envisions the complete overhaul of our present education practice, both at the school level as well as in the higher education sector, and re-energizing the higher education system to overcome the challenges which are being faced in the current education system in practice. And the idea is to have high quality and higher education which includes equity as well as inclusion. And the fundamental principles of national education policy is primarily looking at recognizing, identifying and fostering the unique capabilities of each student. Earlier the education system was there, but it didn't cater to all the building the unique capabilities of these individual students. And by sensitizing the teachers like us, as well as parents, to promote each student's holistic development in both academic as well as non-academic spheres. So the teachers, as teachers, we have to conduct a couple of teacher training programs, especially our Directorate of Learning and Development is involved, responsible for conducting teacher training programs to help our teachers across our institutions understand the various aspects of national education policy, and also to gear up to face those challenges so that they imbibe the national education policy in its fullest strength. So it's necessary to formally acknowledge the changes and redesign the current higher education programs to suit the NEP requirements. So this may include revamping the entire curriculum. So the curriculum that we have set forth in the earlier years has a lot of drawbacks, and that is why the new education policy primarily looks at implementing certain aspects into the curriculum. So we have to, across all of our SRM institutions, we have to revamp the curriculum. And that's a major work that we as the Directorate of Learning and Development will be involved with. And also revamping the, we call andragogy, because pedagogy is child learning and andragogy is adult learning. So usage of andragogy to its fullest extent. And also other education learning theories as appropriate that our teachers need to understand. And we should also revamp the current assessment practice to suit the current NEP guidelines. And similarly revamp the student support system which we have, and also to revamp the student experiences. That means experiences both as a learning experience as well as experience that they undergo in the campus in their 3 or 4 years of study that they go through. So all these are required to accomplish the overarching goals of the NEP 2020. So most of you are aware of NEP 2020, but we should also understand the key highlights of the session. So in this session we shall see the key insights of the NEP and also identify the emerging areas as the new age courses for knowledge and skill enhancement. And now what happens is the courses have shifted from its focus being just knowledge provider to more skill orientation. That means we want our students to be more professional in their attitudes. And best practices that we can use for curriculum design and its concerned delivery mechanisms. And we'll also have capacity building measures for curriculum implementation. That means how do we implement this into our university system, so that capacity building measures we should also taken care of, and guidelines for the academic planning to achieve the required institutional goals. So as we know that this is a transition phase, so it has to go in its very sequential approach, but if we follow some best practices, we'll be able to do this much more easily and effectively. And also to take concrete steps for its implementation without spoiling the essence of our currently practiced choice-based credit system and learning outcome-based curricular formats. So let us see the key insights of the NEP. So the first thing is that flexibility. What NEP offers is flexibility, that the learners have the ability to choose their learning trajectories. So there isn't a fixed formula that
students have to go only through this predetermined set of curricular strategies. Rather, we will have multiple strategies where the students can take a path to specialize on a particular area, or if a student wants to after 1 year of study they want to enter into a job market, they can walk away with a good skill-based certificate. Similarly, at the end of second year, if he wants to work away from the higher education program, he gets a diploma, and that should be as good as a good polytechnic college diploma. Similarly, at the end of third year, we want the student to be professionally skilled, and by the end of fourth year, we want them to be at the honors level or at the research level. So we are also focusing on getting their programs to charter their own path of development. If the student wants to go towards research, he should take that trajectory. Somebody wants to get skilled into a job, he can take that trajectory. Similarly, somebody wants to just get skilled and become a skilled worker in that particular domain of expertise, he should also be able to, he or she should be able to do so. And one important factor that our current university system works like silos, that there is an arts college, then there is a science college, then there is a law college, there is an agri college, there is an engineering college. So they work in silos, and hardly do students get an opportunity to take courses across the disciplines. So there is no hard separation between arts, sciences, and also there is no separation between curricular and extracurricular, because currently the curricular activity is graded, the extracurricular activity is not graded, and so on and so. But if we design our programs in such a way that even the extracurricular activity, if it satisfies certain professional criteria, they can also be graded and they can be given due credits for their learning. And also there isn't much of a difference between vocational and academic streams. So because earlier we were talking about vocational being skill-based and academic being more theory-based, but here what happens, the blend of both skill and the academic knowledge should go hand in hand. That means all the courses need to be redesigned in such a way that they also possess skills and abilities along with knowledge streams. And that will help to eliminate these unwanted and harmful hierarchies that and the silos that are available currently in the various aspects of learning. And the important factor is that having a multidisciplinary and a holistic education across sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities, sports, and so on and so forth. That means we are no longer going to produce only law graduates. That means the law graduate will also have a multidisciplinary approach to go and take a couple of courses in liberal arts or in sports, for instance. That means he will specialize on law with a certain prefixed academic credit, but he will also parallelly open up or widen up his knowledge in terms of understanding various other related disciplines as well. Let us go with a couple of more examples. See, emphasis on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning. That means it's not memory of a formula that makes an engineer, or it's memory of a formula makes a science graduate. It is the application of the knowledge which is more critical. And creativity and critical thinking, even though we talk about it in all forums, but putting that into real-time application so that they can make good decisions for both themselves as well as for the field at which they are working. And it also fosters innovation and creativity. And ethics and human values, instead of just having them as silos courses or courses which talk about values, ethics, we want to integrate those into our corresponding courses as well. For example, somebody is learning physics, we want to add an element of ethics into that physics as well. So it may not be just learning about physics, it's also about what are the ethical practices that one can use in learning physics. Similarly, promoting multilingualism, because the power of language, see, for all of us, English is always a foreign language, because in this country we are speaking more than 28 languages, and all these languages are part of our culture. So an ability to learn in more than one language. So for example, we are in this place is in Tamil Nadu, where people speak the local language Tamil. So the students should be should have an ability to learn, say for example, electrical machines using the local language Tamil as well. So they can also have a better understanding once it is in their own language. And life skills such as communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience should be part of the course itself rather than separate courses for communication, so on and so forth. Similarly, the focus on formative assessment for learning rather than one final examination. So at the end of a semester or end of a year, we conduct one summative final examination. But more emphasis should be given towards the continuous learning assessment, progressive learning assessments. That means more what we used to call as internal examinations is now called as continuous learning assessments. And more emphasis, like 80% of our weightage towards grading should be on the continuous learning assessment and some 20% on the final examination. So that this will eliminate the so-called coaching culture also. And extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, thereby removing the language barriers and increasing access to all the students as far as educational planning and management. So we are all, thankfully SRM has already created learning tools like eLab, eCurricula, eSkill, eCircuit. So these are various technology tools that we have built even before the pandemic, and quite helpful if you look at what NEP suggests, that use technology to the maximum so that the reachability of the content to the student is no way lagging. Assume a student skipped the class due to some illness or becoming sick, and the same lecture is recorded, the material is available, the worksheets are available for practice. Even if he misses the class, he can always go back and do so. And there are some more elements like respect for diversity and respect for local context in all the curriculum. Local context, as I just told you, that if you are in one part of the country, there are certain applications which are specific to that part of the context. So instead of having one textbook which is written by a foreign author and the context is to that particular country, if you can rework on it and create a curriculum which suits our local requirements, local needs. For example, civil engineering problems in this part of the country. What are the civil engineering? What type of dams are well suited in this part of the country? So such things can also be included into it. Similarly, full equity of and inclusion of all education decisions to ensure that the students are able to thrive in this education system. And synergy in the curriculum. And also, teachers and faculty are the core or the crux to implement this learning practice. So their recruitment, their continuous professional development, positive working environment, and service conditions are also to be looked into. And a light but tight regulatory framework. This is a very good word that they have used. It should be light, but it should be tight. That means it should have less topics, but it should go more depth. That is what it also means. To ensure integrity, transparency, and resource efficiency of the education system through audit and public disclosure, while encouraging innovation and out-of-the-box ideas through autonomy, good governance, and empowerment. And we are ready to commit ourselves as a university to take such activities. And outstanding research as a core requisite for outstanding education and development. That means research, what we do are currently done at a very silos and not as applicable to the native needs. Now if we can convert those research into solving problems that are specific to this part of the country, then we are doing a research which is more purposeful, meaningful, and reaches out to larger public. Similarly, continuous review of the progress based on sustained research and regulatory assessment by educational experts. And finally, rootedness, the pride of India. It's rich, diverse, ancient and modern culture and knowledge systems and traditions. Even though we have Indian traditional knowledge as a separate course, but once it integrates into a course, for example, the old law system which existed in India and the current law that we are practicing. For example, medieval times construction and the current construction practice. If we can relate them and have meaningful studies on that, then we are doing our jobs, and that's what NEP is looking at. Okay. And emerging areas and new area courses of knowledge and skill enhancement. Primarily, skilling is becoming the key. Earlier, skilling was not the key for higher education, but now it's skill. We have this Skill India, which primarily talks about, do we have the ability to perform the task? So at the end of this course, do we have the ability to perform the task? So ergonogy is an approach. It's a pedagogical practice called as ergonogy, which primarily focuses on having the vocational education practice in the regular education practice itself. Similarly, the pedagogy and andragogy was highly used in higher education, but heutagogy, like andragogy, is also which is based on the constructivist theory, is also a very well used educational tool for achieving this knowledge and skills and all. So we may also want to construct programs on pedagogical practices for teachers to teach higher education. So that is something which we have. The next is what will be the best curricular design practice that we can use to ensure that our curricula is on par with any other global standards. So Massachusetts Institute of Technology designed something called a CDA. That means the student conceives something, then he designs it, then he implements it, operates it, thereby the cycle gets complete. Like plan, do, check, act. They conceive an idea, then you design it, implement it, and operate it. If every course has a CDA framework integrated, then we are not only following the global standards, and we'll be having one of the best curricula, which is which we can feel proud of, because the world's top 150 universities are following the CDA curricula, and the top 25 universities definitely are following the CDA curricula model. And we at SRM, being a member of CDAO, we would also like to implement it in all the courses across the disciplines of art, science, management, engineering, law college, agri college, and so on. Next is the capacity building, because we have to build the capacity both internally with respect to teachers, higher education leaders, administrative staff, college, non-teaching staff, and so on. So we have to have good planning and good leadership development in terms of ensuring that all our heads of departments and senior education leaders also understand about leadership. Then team building and academic board development, as well as budgets and forecasts and process improvement. So we would like to have measures to, while implementing the curricula, we should look into all these aspects. And general guideline is that without data, nothing is proven. So let us have good data analytics. In our case, it's learning analytics to prepare as to what we are supposed to do, and then do the strategy development, then plan and form the goals and track the progress towards achievement of the goals, and the cycle gets repeated. So we want to have a good academic planning exercise starting from this Teachers' Day onwards and across the year, so that we follow all these steps very meticulously and ensure that our initiatives go very fruitful. And what are the concrete steps that we are planning to do is that have personalized learners in our key crux. Align with virtual and classroom instruction using technologies and other. And have a fine balance between virtual, actual class activities, because we have the distance education, online education also. As apart from the regular modes of education, we also have these modes. So it's better to have a balanced approach of, because end of the day our students have to earn learning credits, and they'll be stored in the academic bank of credits. And focus on the learner is highly, which are also put there, but this is the learner's interest, and focus will be always the learner as against the teacher or the curriculum, so that our system is adaptable and authentic, and it's definitely a future focused curriculum assessment. So once we have all these things into place, then I'm sure on this Teachers' Day message I would like to say that NEP implementation can definitely be done in SRMIST, and we are looking forward for the support of all the teachers who are present here in this August gathering, and let us do this in a very successful manner. And as the Director of Learning and Development, I assure you that my team is fully geared up towards implementing NEP to all of us. Thank you very much.